is SportsCenter.
Hello, MKL. So, I just was thinking in my head of what type of content could I make right now, and I was thinking to myself, I am someone who loves to trade. Trading is probably the most fun part about being in a league, besides deving players, and since that got brutally ripped away from me, I was thinking, let me take my skills to some teams that don't really trade and don't really do much with their players, and maybe some ways to improve it. So I am Doc, and I'm going to be your guys' MKL Matchmaker, to say the least. So first things up is I was just perusing the league, looking for teams who are in a weird spot that should trade some players and try and get some value, or keep some players and things like that. And one of the first things that I noticed is with my division mate, Nick. I talked a little bit about Nick's team earlier, about how it's just really in a weird place, and I don't really enjoy the roster that much. And you look at Purdy and you look at Warner. The 49ers don't have a lot of money. Let me see if I can find that really quickly. Let's go to team salaries. So we go to the 49ers, negative 50 mil. He got absolutely kind of destroyed in season one with some bad trades, I would say. And I think you need to trade some of these assets to some people and kind of either get younger. But firstly, you got to ship off Purdy. And then next, to kind of entice someone to take Purdy, I'd consider trading Warner. Warner gets Lurk Artist, which is extremely, extremely valuable. And then CMC might have to move too. 1-year deal. You really don't have any money to pay this guy. So a team that I was potentially looking at for these 49ers to trade is with the Bengals. The Bengals are also in just a terrible spot to begin with, and I think the Bengals could make some trades. And let me go to Discord really quickly. Let me look at trade info, so I'm not just saying you should trade for all these untouchable players. So who can the Bengals not trade? Jamar Chase. Perfect. So my vision for this Bengals team is Joe Burrow's 30. Cactus isn't really someone who's competing right now, and I think the 49ers are trying to make a run. I think the 49ers are 2-2 now, and starting off is not a spot you want to be at. So what I'm looking at for this team is you got Joe Burrow on the roster. He's 30. He's only 87 throw power. Nick's been dealing with Brock Purdy, who's not that valuable, who I think has 86. So you're getting a throw power upgrade. You're getting an X factor for a team that wants to compete now. So I'm looking at this and this trade finder, and for this Bengals team, I'm considering you get rid of Joe Burrow, you get rid of Bijan, and maybe Trey Hendrickson. Yeah, and so you're getting rid of these three guys. You're getting $75 million in space, and what I think in return that the 49ers could potentially be giving up is you give up CMC as part of the deal, you give up Fred Warner, and you give up Brock Purdy, and then you're just looking around and you probably throw in all of these picks. Honestly, you probably throw in these as well. He has a lot of picks in 2028, so you give up CMC, you give up Fred Warner, you give up Purdy, and you give up these picks here to go get you your CMC replacement, essentially, in Bijan. You get rid of Fred Warner and you get rid of Purdy, and I think that's a great deal. You get someone next to Nick Bosa, who is 32 and does have good abilities and is a high enough overall to where if you do have an edge threat on Nick Bosa, you get to replace the edge threat on Hendrickson with something else. And I think this really helps the team kind of just free up some space and not have to worry about re-signing people. And, Nick's not someone who really drafts often. So I think just getting rid of these picks and getting a Joe Burrow who's going to have the best abilities in the game and really elevate your passing offense. And sure, you do lose Fred Warner, but you are getting a defensive lineman across from Nick Bosa to help with the pass rush. And does he really have a replacement? This Mike Graham, is he good? He's a speed rusher, so maybe not. But after that, just find someone to use her, and I think you can make that trade work. And so, as well, I was looking at this Saints team, and I think there's definitely some moves to be made with them as well. You have so many DBs here. All of these guys are like 94, 95 speed. This Kool-Aid McKinstry's, I think, the slowest guy with like 92. Let's see. NFL roster. Let's just go to the Saints. So the Saints, yeah, you have Kool-Aid with 92 speeds. Tyreek is good. Cam Smith, probably someone who's a good third, fourth corner. And then you have all of this kind of just traffic at the bottom with Terrence Bassnight. This guy needs to be starting. He's 96 speed, 22 and 6'3". Does he have a dev? Yeah, he has a dev and he's a rookie. You got to start him. You're probably starting Tyreek Stevenson too, and you're probably starting Kool-Aid. So and this Marquise Wakefield. So, I'm looking at this, shop one or two of these corners, and I think you can make some moves. I think I was looking at like wide receiver or something for this team, and trying to get like an elite wide receiver, because Chris Olave, he's all right. So I was thinking you maybe shop Chris Olave and two other guys, and two other DBs, and let's just look at wide receivers here and go by speed. I think I was looking at the Giants or something. Or maybe even the 49ers. The 49ers should trade this and get some DBs because they don't have any DBs. I think this Justin Sanders dude. So with the Giants, they have some really good wide receivers. They have Hyatt, they have Neighbors, and they have this Hilson. I think you could shop either Hyatt or Justin Sanders, if you're the Saints, and try and get something. And let's look at the DBs. You have Tre'Davious White. No, thank you. This guy's 5'9" and this guy's 5'8". I think Bats could use some cornerback upgrades, and I think the Saints definitely have that to work with. So, like, if you're Bats, you get Chris Olave with Malik Neighbors and Jalen Hyatt or Justin Sanders, and that's a good wide receiver core. And then you're looking at this and you're upgrading the DB room consistency, because you don't want Beanie Bishop starting. He's not that good. Trey White's old and only 90 speed. I don't want any part of that. And Marcus Jones is only 5'8". No, thank you. So that's something I'd consider doing if I was the Saints or the Giants. And I think the other team I was looking at is this Buccaneers roster. So this Buccaneers roster, I'm looking at wide receiver. They have Trey Palmer, and this Edward Pearson. They could use a wide receiver upgrade too. And for whatever reason, he was looking at shopping Peyton Wilson. Now, Peyton Wilson is a guy I think should be absolutely kept on your team at all costs. He's 6'4", 93 speed as a user. I don't think it gets any better than that as a user-wise. So I was thinking maybe you look to the Steelers and you send him back Peyton Wilson, or you send him to the Texans to match with Brian Cushing. So I was looking at maybe you look and get an Isaiah Simmons and some other stuff in return. You just sent a first-round pick. So let's see if we can work something out with the Steelers. I'm not sure the Steelers have the speed at wide receiver that he is willing to part ways with. Negative 31 mil, not fucking happening. Um, Earl Trotter's the guy. Dante Cruz, I don't think he's fast. He's just tall. Um, so not really anything to work out there. Let's look around. Nico Collins, I think Nico Collins maybe. Actually, fuck. So Haj, I think Haj just made a trade, for Wilson. Let me look at trade results. Yeah, so he just traded for Roman Wilson, so he got that. He gave up a first. Um, Haj was looking at some defensive line too, but let me take a look, across the league. At some defensive line. And maybe this is a spot for Trey Hendrickson to go to. So you could get Trey Hendrickson, who is big enough to play defensive tackle. And then I also know the Bengals have this linebacker here, Vondre Fisher. I think he started F2. So maybe if you're Hodge, you look at Vondre Fisher. He's not tall, but he is fast. 90 speed, 89 XL with 85 hit power, and he is a big hitter, so he is gonna try and force fumbles. Maybe you look and trade Peyton Wilson for Vondre Fisher, Trey Hendrickson, and like some picks, maybe. Yeah, maybe you try and get like a second round pick or get like a first or something back in return. I think Peyton Wilson has incredible value, so if you are going to trade him, I think you should be expecting to get a lot in return. Um, and I'm not sure. I don't think I was looking at really anything else. I think everyone has a really good quarterback right now. I was looking at Spitz backup, who has 97 throw power. This Eric Freeman, who's only 23. Super young, 97 throw power, but is slow as a fucking brick oven. And I was going to do a trade for him and the Dolphins, but the Dolphins just traded for a guy. But the Dolphins is definitely someone who should be looking to kind of offload this guy, Junior Colson. They have 1.85 mil, and they had 18 players on their roster coming into this year, so they certainly do not have any money to make a deal with people. So I think Junior Colson has to go. I know he's not on the untouchable list. Who else? The Dolphins. Phillips, Waddle, A-Chain. Yeah, so Junior Colston is someone who needs to get traded. Probably Bradley Chubb too. Actually, this is a perfect spot for the Buccaneers. You trade Peyton Wilson, who is due a contract, and you get Bradley Chubb in return. And who else is due? Maybe you try and get Patrick Paul, who also is due a contract. So, do the Bucs have some guys to give? You know, you're not giving up worse if you're doing this. You're probably giving up Luke Godeke. Tell me they have picks. You know, if you're the Dolphins, you probably want picks or players. Who else can these Bucs trade? Maybe you get rid of Winfield. But I do think there is a deal to be had between this team where the Dolphins are getting Peyton Wilson in return for Junior Colson and Bradley Chubb. And I think another team that's kind of a sleeper is this Cardinals team. So if you guys did not know, our Cardinals user Joey is a D-line user, and if we're just looking at his D-line, there's not really anyone that you want to use as far as this D-line. BJ Ojulari's good, but he doesn't really have good abilities right now. Absolutely should change these abilities to what is he doing? So maybe that's your user, but you probably want a guy across. So maybe we look at, Zaven Collins and you're not trading Pumphrey and some picks over to the Dolphins for Junior Colson and Bradley Chubb. That way you get Bradley Chubb on the edge, and you get two really astound linebackers to play zone coverage for you while you're trying to blitz the passer. I think that's a really good idea. So you get Mumphrey and Colson on the back end, and then you get Bradley Chubb and BJ Ojolari to kind of figure things out. And then all you have to do is give them some picks, because the Dolphins can't play their players, because after this season they're just going to have another 18 players to work with. Because I'm pretty sure 90% of this roster is on a 1-year deal. Is this the right spot? Yeah. So let's just take a look. Yeah, almost the entire roster is on 1-year deals. And I think that's going to do it for this episode. It's not really something that I really thought out and planned. It's kind of just winged it a little bit. So I'm not doing a trade scenario for all 32 teams or something. Just some stuff that I noticed that I think would make the league better and the people who own those teams better, just because I don't want to see teams go to shit and then we have to fill them. I know Fridge is a good GM and so is Bats, but I think they can make some moves and make their teams even better. So I've been your matchmaker. You guys are welcome.